Reality warping is a very powerful ability. You can create anything you want, turn any object into anything you want, and there are so many more possibilities. This ability, if put into evil hands, can be catastrophic. There is no telling what kinds of mass destruction one can cause if they choose to walk down the path of evil and has reality manipulating abilities. Some examples of this are Infinite the Jackal and Janemba. Both of these characters are incredibly powerful reality warpers that were capable of sending even the protagonists of their verse running. Hello everyone, Dusty here, and today I'll be talking about two very powerful antagonists who not only gave their protagonists a very bad beating, but can warp the very fabric of reality. Such characters are Infinite the Jackal from the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, and Janemba from Dragon Ball Z Fusion Reborn movie. I will be comparing their stats such as strength, speed, durability, IQ, experience, and their abilities to determine which one of these characters will walk out of the arena and which one will be turned to dust. Before we do that, I want to tell you about their backstories, starting with Infinite. Infinite was once an ordinary mercenary living in a world where he had to fight for survival. He initially lived a normal life until he crossed paths with the brilliant Dr. Eggman. Eggman made an offer that Infinite couldn't refuse. He offered power beyond Infinite's wildest dreams, but it came at a cost. Infinite used to have great levels of confidence and pride in his skills, but after a battle with an unnamed opponent, his confidence was shattered, along with his sense of self-worth. Desperate to regain control of his life and never feel weak again, he took up Eggman's offer and allowed himself to be subjected to his experiments. Eggman used a powerful energy source known as the Phantom Ruby to alter Infinite's physical and mental state, as well as giving him immense power. Infinite became fixated on revenge, especially to Sonic and the gang, and he would engage in war alongside Eggman against the main cast and the Resistance, where he would be defeated and trapped inside the Phantom Ruby. After mortals in the Dragon Ball universe die, they go to either heaven or hell. In hell, there was a young and lazy ogre who worked at King Yema's soul cleansing machine, where souls were processed. The ogre got distracted by loud music, which caused the machine to overload with centuries of accumulated evil energy. The ogre was morphed into the monstrous Janemba. Janemba is the living embodiment of pure evil, and he was so powerful he was a threat to the entire universe. Janemba's rampage caused dead villains to rise to the surface where they would cause mass destruction, and then he would be confronted by Goku and Vegeta, where Janemba would be able to beat them senseless. It took the combined power of Goku and Vegeta fusing into Gogeta to finally put down Janemba. Although it's clear that Janemba's reign of terror caused mass destruction. So now that you know who these characters are, let's get on with the main point of the video. Like I said in the intro, I'll be comparing both of these characters' stats to come to a verdict on who wins. Let's begin by talking about the first stat, their strength, starting with Infinite. Infinite is one of the most powerful villains to ever come out of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. For starters, in the game where Infinite originates, Sonic Forces, Infinite was stated to be the strongest villain that Sonic had ever faced at the time. If taken literally, then Infinite should be stronger than characters like Solaris, who is a time-eating god who existed in all timelines past, present, and future, as well as Perfect Chaos, who absorbed all the 7 Chaos Emeralds and was able to fight modern Sonic, Eraser Jin, who controls the Night Palace, which is an infinite space with its own astral plane, and many more. Infinite was also able to beat up Sonic and Silver with relative ease. So after factoring in all of these statements, then Infinite should scale around to multiversal to even complex multiversal levels of strength due to being stronger than said villains I listed. Janemba is one of, if not the strongest villain from the Dragon Ball Z movies. First of all, he was able to effortlessly beat Pikkon, who was strong enough to fend off characters like Super Perfect Cell and even keep up with Super Saiyan Goku. Goku has also said that Janemba's energy was the strongest he's ever felt, which, if the other movies are canon to this movie, which they are potentially due to later scenes, this includes villains like Broly, who was able to destroy the South Galaxy. Janemba was also stated to be superior to Hydruigarn, sorry if I mispronounced that, who was able to overpower post-Buu Saga Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Gohan, and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta. Janemba was also able to warp reality throughout the entirety of Universe 7, which is a multiversal construct due to having a bunch of different dimensions within it, and some of those dimensions, like the Kaioshun realm, being infinite in size. So Janemba should scale to around a low multiversal to even just plain multiversal ranges of power. Also, as a bonus, Janemba's Dimensions Sword, which I'll talk about later, is also able to cut through the fabric of reality. So who's stronger? Infinite would take the edge in strength due to his statements being above characters like Solaris and Eraserjin, and would make Infinite scale a lot higher than Janemba, being complex multiversal over Janemba's multiversal. Janemba is obviously incredibly powerful in his own right, being able to overpower Goku, but Infinite being stronger than, like I said, Solaris, Eraserjin, is just more impressive than Janemba being stronger than Goku. So Infinite takes the edge in strength. Now let's talk about speed. Infinite, being a Sonic the Hedgehog character, is incredibly fast. For starters, he was able to dodge Sonic's boost technique, as well as Tails stating that Infinite was faster than Sonic. This should give Infinite, funny enough, infinite speeds. Infinite can also perform a variation of Metal Sonic's V Maximum Overdrive, which increases his speed by 4. Infinite can also keep pace with the main character who's unnamed but is referred to as Rookie, who is either equal or slightly slower than Sonic. So overall, like I said, Infinite would have infinite speeds. I should put a counter of how many times I say the word infinite. Janemba is also incredibly fast. He is far superior to base Goku, who, alongside Pikkon, was able to travel across the entire infinite-sized afterlife. We know it's infinite in size due to multiple statements from not only characters like Bulma, who is the smartest mortal, but also statements by the author Akira Toriyama. Janemba should also be superior to anime Kid Buu, who was able to destroy galaxies by simply flying through them. This would give Janemba infinite speeds, however, he could potentially be faster than this. In the Revenge of Cooler movie, Goku and Metal Cooler were able to fight in the middle of using instant transmission, a technique that instantly transports you from point A to point B. Considering how they were able to move faster than an instant, it would be an incalculable speed feat, although whether this movie is canon to Fusion Reborn is questionable. While Cooler does show up in the movie when all the villains escape from Hell, he's in his final form and not his Metal Cooler or his weird cybernetic Getty Star form. So if you want to say that the two movies connect, then Janemba would have immeasurable speeds. But if you don't think they connect, then Janemba would only have infinite speeds. So who's faster? Well, it entirely depends on if you think the Metal Cooler movie is connected to the Fusion Reborn movie. If you do think so, then Janemba would take the edge. But if not, then Infinite would have the ever so slight edge due to being able to boost his speed with his version of V Maximum Overdrive. So whoever takes speed is up to interpretation. So just for the sake of it, I'm going to say they tie, because there's no definitive answer on who is faster, since it is up to interpretation. Now let's move on to durability. Infinite, being the strongest villain at the time of Sonic Forces, is also potentially the most durable if you would scale his durability to his attack potency and strength. He also has high levels of durability due to him being able to take hits and fight modern Sonic, who defeated characters like Eraser Jin, Perfect Chaos, the same list I said earlier. Although Infinite was also able to take blows from characters like Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow, who are at least relative to Sonic, with Shadow being arguable to be equal to Sonic. So overall, Infinite should have around complex multiversal levels of durability. Janemba is extremely hard to kill, and it shows quite a few times in the movie. Not only does he have extreme regeneration, which allows him to heal from almost all physical damage, but he is also able to take hits from Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which should give Janemba low multiversal levels of durability. He was also able to take brief hits from Gogeta before he died, but, we all know what happened there. So whether we should count this because he only really survived because of his regeneration, either way, he would still have around low multiversal to just multiversal levels of power. Infinite would take the edge in durability pretty handily. Infinite has simply fought much stronger opponents than Janemba has. Although Janemba has a much stronger healing factor than Infinite, although Infinite's durability is so much higher than Janemba's, I hesitate to give him the edge. For now, I'll give the edge to Infinite solely due to how much higher his durability scales above Janemba, even with his healing factor. Now let's move on to the next stats, IQ and experience. Infinite, while not being as book smart as characters like Tails and Eggman, is incredibly battle intelligent. He should be superior to Sonic when it comes to battle skill and battle intelligence, or at least somewhat relative to him. Which, Sonic has been doing fighting villains and doing all this saving the world stuff for years. He is also a master swordsman and is highly adept in close quarters combat. Infinite was also a leader of a group of mercenaries before Eggman came along, so he was able to be a leader with great success. As for experience, like I said, he was a member of the Jackal squad, which is the mercenary group, for years, as well as fighting the entire main cast and the Resistance in Sonic Forces. So he's pretty experienced. Although I just want to mention one thing that drags Infinite down a little is his severe inferiority complex and arrogance, which leads him to underestimating his foes quite often. So while not a huge detriment to his battle intelligence, it's still a weakness that I should bring up. Janemba is definitely below average when it comes to book smarts, considering he has the emotional capacity of an infant, as well as the only thing he can say is his name like he's a Pokemon. Other than that, he only really makes groans, grunts, and yells. But he is very impressive when it comes to battle IQ. He not only has a very skilled grasp and understanding of his abilities, but he was also able to push a combat genius like Goku around and even catch him off guard. As for experience, he doesn't really have much at all. Janemba was only alive for less than a day, and while he is a manifestation of generations of evil souls, that does not mean he has generations of combat experience, because he's a amalgamation of souls, not a merging of minds type of thing. So while Janemba is a very skilled fighter, he really doesn't have the experience to back it up. So yeah, Infinite takes experience with pretty much no contest at all. But when it comes to IQ, it's definitely a lot closer. Both are extremely skilled fighters and have trumped equally, if not superior skilled fighters than themselves. But I'm giving the edge to Infinite. This is mainly due to the fact that Infinite, is a lot smarter than Janemba when it comes to book intelligence. Now, like I said, he's not as smart as characters like Tails or Eggman, who have IQs around 300, but unlike Janemba, Infinite can actually speak full sentences and form strategies and plans, while Janemba just kind of fights on instinct and fights like a brute, essentially. So Infinite takes the edge in both stats. Before I become to the verdict on who wins, let's talk about their abilities, starting with Infinite. Infinite is pretty stacked when it comes to what abilities he has. Using the power of the Phantom Ruby, he can create illusions so convincing that they cause actual physical harm. He can also manipulate gravity, distort space, and generate a near infinite amount of soldiers. Infinite can also fly, create energy shields, fire energy blasts, teleport, and he's even able to create mini stars, or like you can argue they're full on stars. So yeah, Infinite has quite a lot of abilities under his belt, which makes him an intimidating villain. Janemba has a lot of abilities that make him extremely dangerous to even characters with god levels of strength. Obviously, he can warp reality like Plato and cause extensive damage. Janemba can also teleport, create portals, and has the ability to materialize anything he wants from thin air, like his Dimension Sword. Janemba can also manipulate his own body to do crazy things like phase through attacks, reshape his body, and more. Like I said earlier, Janemba has really good regeneration, which allows him to heal from most physical damage. And the only thing that he can't really regenerate from is total disintegration. Like every character in Dragon Ball, Janemba has access to Ki, which is the life force of all living beings, which can be weaponized. Janemba, with his Ki, can fire energy blasts, teleport, fly, and a lot of other things. He also, with his Dimension Sword, can cut through reality, but it also bypasses durability. So yeah, Janemba is a very dangerous villain due to how strong his abilities truly are. So who wins? Well, I give the win to Infinite for a few reasons. The first reason is that he simply has the stat advantage over Janemba, being not only way stronger, but being more durable and experienced. Sure, he can also potentially be faster as well, but then again, that's up to interpretation. Sure, Janemba can bypass Infinite's durability with the Dimension Sword, but that doesn't mean he can kill Infinite in one strike. Infinite can also create a large army of Phantom Ruby clones to overwhelm Janemba, which Janemba has never really shown to be able to fight more than up to 3 opponents at a time. The real question, though, is if Infinite can bypass Janemba's healing factor, which I personally believe that he can. It's a canon part in Dragon Ball that if you are stronger than your opponent, you cancel out all of their abilities, which we actually see in the Fusion Reborn movie. Gogeta was stronger than Janemba, and he was able to overwhelm Janemba's regen with physical force, which was one of the factors he was able to kill Janemba in the movie. While Infinite can't purify Janemba like Gogeta could, with how much stronger his damage output exceeds Janemba's highest durability feat, it's not unlikely that Infinite would just overwhelm his regen with physical damage. Or, he could just fire a strong enough energy blast to completely disintegrate Janemba, which he can't regenerate from. Also, Janemba was physically damaged from being insulted. So that's another point in Infinite's favor, since he likes to talk a lot of smack. So the winner for this video is Infinite with low to arguably mid difficulty. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you disagreed with anything I said, make sure to comment down below. I read all of your comments to see what I can do to better improve my videos. Alright, this is Dusty, signing off. Have a wonderful day.